Hi everybody, and welcome to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. On this story we've got stories from Am I the A-hole with an update, wedding shaming, and petty revenge. So if you want to get started with the stories, then just use the timestamps below the video. Now I'd like to thank all of you that support me in so many different ways by either being YouTube members or Twitch subscribers or donating during the live streams. So thank you very much for your support. And if this is the first time watching one of my videos and you like it, then consider subscribing to the channel and joining us on Discord. Now let's get started with today's stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's from user throwaway5383920. Am I the a-hole for announcing my pregnancy first? I, 26 female, am married to my dear husband, 26 male, and have an older sister, 27 female, who I'll call Kay. For some background, Kay was the golden child, but my parents rapidly changed their tune when she failed uni and started a party lifestyle for a bit. No longer the case. Suddenly, I was the favorite because I finished school and had a moderately successful life. I think it's BS that my parents have or had favorites, and I largely keep my distance, but it's something that has troubled Kay a lot. So, dear husband and I recently got pregnant, surprise! And though I keep a healthy distance from my parents, we still talk. Boundaries are really important to have with them because they will trample over your entire life and privacy. COVID restrictions are a thing, and I'm not big on parties anyways. So I decided to just tell my family about the latest news during a monthly family video chat last Friday. I was excited to share the news, but I also didn't beat around the bush. Once everyone had done the preliminary catching up, I said dear husband and I had some news, and then said I was pregnant. My parents, sisters, and grandmother lost it, screaming and laughing and crying in joy. This is the first grandchild, great-grandchild, niece, or nephew, so they understandably had pretty dramatic reactions. Everyone was excited except for Kay, who stayed completely silent the entire time. Once things calmed down a bit, I asked if Kay was still there, and she said yes, but she had to go and deal with something. I thought it was odd, but didn't give it much further thought. Later, I get a text from Kay saying that she was going to make a pregnancy announcement then too, but that I had ruined it. I should have asked her specifically before making the announcement because she, as firstborn, should have been the one to have the first grandchild. That my child would get all the attention and love, and hers would be the second rate. I sent her a text saying that I had no clue she was pregnant and congratulating her, and that I was sorry she didn't get to make the announcement when she wanted to. I then, possibly quite stupidly, asked when her due date was. Kay said, "Don't worry, you're first," and has not answered anything since. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? I might be the a-hole because I didn't even think to check with my sisters, stole the moment, said something dumb despite knowing my sister's complicated dynamic with our family and me. No, OP, you are not the a-hole. Your sister's conceptions about the news and who's gonna be first-rate or second-rate grandchild or niece or nephew are just plain stupid. Of course, probably fueled by how your parents behaved and how she was the favorite, which I absolutely agree with you. There shouldn't be favorites when it comes to parents. And just as a side note, I believe your parents are huge a-holes for their contribution to this whole mess. But still, in my opinion, you shouldn't be asking if anybody else is pregnant so you can share your news. No, I mean, you just share your news with your family because you love them, and if anybody else is pregnant, they can also make the announcement. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter who's at first, the babies are going to be loved just the same. Or at least they should be, but I don't understand your sister saying that she was the firstborn, so she should have the first baby? What's that supposed to mean? What if she wasn't pregnant? Would you have told your husband, no, we can't have babies until my sister has the first baby in our family because, she's the firstborn, so reasons. No! I really don't know or understand what your sister is on about, but I do know that you are not the a-hole. What do you guys think? Let me know your judgment in the comment section, and now we move on with the community judgment. Requirement Odd says, not the a-hole. How could you be? You didn't know she was pregnant. She didn't know you were pregnant. What's with people making a big deal about having the first kid in the family? OP responds, in fairness, the big deal aspect predates my sister and I. My entire family absolutely spoils the firstborn of every generation to the point of absurdity. Nyan KH says, not the a-hole, but try to have some compassion for your sister because your parents are the true a-holes here. They've raised you both in a way that encourages you to compete for their affection, and she hasn't broken free of it the way you have. She probably thought that announcement would get her back the love they've been withholding, only to find out she was out of luck. Not your fault at all, but I wouldn't get too negative with her because this all comes from your parents' crappy approach to parenting. And OP responds, exactly this. You said this a lot better than I could have. It's just difficult since we're both adults now on where to draw the line, I'd suppose you'd say. Music with Rocks In says, not the a-hole. That actually would have been really rude. Can you imagine? Hey Kay, I just wanted to check and see if you were pregnant and going to announce it on Friday. Asking people if they are pregnant is rude. It pretty much would have forced you to admit you are pregnant before you wanted to announce it. You don't announce you are pregnant at someone's wedding or celebration. You don't announce you are pregnant or a gender of the baby in a way that will burn down a forest or cause bodily harm to bystanders. Those are the limits of the rules. You announce it when you want to announce it. If you suspect someone is pregnant, you keep your mouth shut and wait for them to tell you. That's how it works. So of course, I agree with the commenters in that OP is not the a-hole. I also very much agree with the commenters on the point that the true a-holes here are OP's parents. Especially after OP clarified that it is a big deal for their family who absolutely spoils the firstborn of every generation, which of course I find absolutely ridiculous because it can only generate resentment or unhealthy competition within a family, which you shouldn't have. Anyways, OP has given us an update, so how about we continue with that to find out what happened after this. First things first, I want to thank each and every one of you who commented, voted, and gave their feedback and advice. The outpouring of support was both shocking and overwhelmingly touching. Y'all's compassion was amazing. Thank you all for taking the time. Now, on to the update. Sorry it took so long. Kay took a bit to respond to me. So I waited about a day and then sent Kay a long message essentially saying that I knew she was hurting right now, but that we needed to band together for our kids. That our parents did wrong by all of us kids and that we need to stop the cycle then and there. But we could only do that if we work together. Corny, I know, but it needed saying. I then finished off by asking her to call me when she had the time. Well, she called me after a couple of days, and the first thing she did was apologize. Some of you guessed that she had built this up in her head as a band-aid for her relationship with the family, and you were right. I know some people think she was lying about being pregnant, but she was really crying on the phone and full of remorse. She said she was furious initially, and then she was sad. We used to be really close before my parents started pitting us against each other, and she realized that our kids could grow up that close to one another and not resent each other, and she felt guilty for being so greedy. She said she was also afraid because she's not as financially well off as I am, and as a result was or is afraid for her baby's quality of life, and knew that the golden child would want for nothing. We agreed to take steps to make sure boundaries are enforced and mutual on both our ends, and she agreed to get back into therapy with the potential of a group session in the future. I'm going to be proactive with my parents in making sure things are fair, and I'm reaching out to a friend of mine whose youngest no longer needs their baby supplies and see if she'll be willing to donate them to Kay, or sell for cheap, you know, that kind of thing. I'm not going to hold my breath too much because actions speak louder than words, but I am cautiously optimistic for the future. Also, apparently she's 7 weeks along and I'm 12 weeks, so the kids will be super close together. Well, OP, this is a very encouraging update. Good for you for reaching out to your sister and trying to get ahead of this thing before it would escalate to, more pettiness and resentment. I think your sister's response was fantastic, considering what her initial approach looked like, but it's a good thing that you guys are doing this together, and yet you are going to put your parents in their place regarding this whole favoritism thing. So all there's left now is just wishful thinking that you guys can get to deal with this appropriately, and that your parents understand that what they've been doing is wrong, and hopefully they'll change their behavior, or you'll have no choice but to limit the contact, I guess. In any case, all the best to all of you, OP. Take care. And now we move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Wedding Shaming, and it's from user My Cat Yells. Come play at my wedding, but pretend you're straight and French. It happened 2 years ago. Background info. I'm a woman, I come from France. My family's pretty tight-knit and has always lived in the same area. I was pretty close to my cousin, let's call him Bob, growing up. We have the same age. However, I left to study in Ireland and met a wonderful gal there. Let's call her Siobhan. We got together shortly before Bob's wedding, and while Bob, and my parents of course, knew about it, I hadn't told most of my family yet since it was all quite recent. Now, I've been playing the violin for most of my life, and Siobhan plays the piano. And we played a couple of gigs in events already, so Bob asked us if we'd be willing to play at his wedding. Like 2 hours of continuous playing, and then just hanging around the piano for most of the evening to play requests from the guests. He said he'd pay for our flights, which with Ryanair would amount to about 50 to 100 euros for the two of us, and then 100 euros each. That's wildly lower than the market price, but you know, family. And also, we both aren't super comfy with big events, so we figured playing music the whole evening would be less awkward than standing around making small talk, LMAO. But Bob had 2 conditions. 1, we shouldn't act as a couple and basically pretend we are just 2 very straight friends. I'm like, what? Maybe the bride's family is homophobic and he wants to protect us? Nope, we'd be the only LGBT plus there, so it would attract attention. Mind you, we weren't planning on madly snugging each other, but he wanted us to straight up lie and say we were friends if asked how we met each other, etc. 2. Siobhan should pretend to be French. Same reason. She would be the only foreigner there and it would get attention. She speaks French fairly well, but her accent clearly screams English speaker. Not to mention the occasional grammar mistakes a native French speaker would never do, misgendering common objects, etc. I jokingly asked if she was supposed to pretend she is mute. He said no because that would attract attention. Apparently, I was supposed to accent coach her so she sounds native in 4 months. At that point, I said, F it, we aren't coming at all, not even as guests, because this is ridiculous. Bob was super offended and mad I wouldn't try to make it work. Then Bob decided to slander me on social media and on my family WhatsApp, saying he asked me to play at his wedding for fat pay. Less than half the market price is fat pay apparently. But I turned my nose up at him because I think I'm so much better than him. Our family was like, what the F, Bob? OP isn't like that. What really happened? So he slandered Siobhan, telling my family about her, which I would have liked to do myself, you know, and saying it's probably her who manipulated me and he thought she sounded super controlling. I eventually intervened and gave my side of the story, supported with the actual texts he sent me. Bob lost a lot of his guests, as nobody from our family aside from his parents and siblings came to his wedding. Wow, that Bob truly sounds like an idiot. Pretend to be straight and French so that you don't attract attention. Dude, it's your wedding and they are there to celebrate you and your bride. It's not about other people. The only upstaging that could possibly happen, but of course is an a-hole move, is to either propose to somebody else at that wedding, or that somebody announces a pregnancy or something like that, or, you know, well, grabs the mic and makes a fool of themselves, that kind of stuff. But I don't believe that being gay or Irish kind of stands out as a particular unicorn that people would fawn over and interrupt the wedding or, you know, take attention from the bride and groom, right? Maybe I'm wrong, but, you know, I wouldn't think so, not even in a small town. Anyways, I go back to my initial point, Bob sounds like an idiot. And now we move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Petty Revenge and it's from user Not the Same. She kept stealing my washing powder, so I gave her dye. I don't mind when my roommates borrow my stuff. We've all been there. All I ask is that they replace what they take. You drink my milk? Just buy me a new milk. It's as simple as that. Unfortunately, my roommate doesn't seem to get this. She keeps taking my stuff, and when I ask her to please replace everything she takes, she'll buy one new thing and forget to do it the next time despite having more money than me. I finally snapped when I wanted to wash my clothes but only found an empty box that used to contain my washing powder. I don't buy fancy or expensive stuff and I don't care about brands. After using the last of my powder a week earlier, she could literally have bought the cheapest no-brand powder in the world and I would have been fine. I just snapped. I had told her over and over not to use my washing powder if she wasn't going to replace it, and I just had enough. I bought a new box of washing powder, some Dylan machine dye, mixed it with a bit of the washing powder and dumped it into the old box. When the dye is dry, it looks like washing powder, especially if you're not expecting it. I took my new box of washing powder to my room and waited. A week later, I came home from work and saw her laundry hanging outside, all with a mysterious pink color. She stomped up to me and demanded to know what I had done. I told her I was going to dye my own clothes, and someone had told me the shade would be lighter if I mixed it with powder. Lie. Then asked her why she had used it when it had clearly been in a box with my name on it when I had told her not to use it because she never replaced it. I don't think she believed me, but she finally got the message. She almost never takes my stuff, and when she does, she's quick to replace it. Well done, OP. Sorry about her clothes being pink now, but I guess she did learn the lesson because now she replaces everything and does not take your stuff so often, so good for you. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I certainly did reading them to you. So if you did, then go ahead and give the video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and become a member of our Discord community that just keeps growing and it is fantastic. And like I said in the beginning of the video, all of the relevant links are in the video description below, so be sure to check them out. And finally, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. It really does mean a lot to me that you guys enjoy this content, so thank you once again. And having said all that, I will see you guys in the next video.